What you're looking at is Mech Rage, and it's one of 3 games we're going to be talking about in this episode of the Shoot 'em Up Show. This is the show where we turn the spotlight on those dedicated developers who are still making fresh, new shooters. Today's entries include The Curious Case of Cuboid Keeper, the role-playing goodness of Cosmonator, and, of course, the aforementioned Mech Rage. So, heed this warning, siren, because this is the Shoot 'em Up Show. Cuboid Keeper is the Resident Evil of shoot 'em ups. Not because it's scary or has zombies, but rather because it turns the limited inventory management system everybody hates into one of the most intense shooters I've played in a long time. Okay, maybe that's not the best way to sell the debut release from Defunct Games, but I assure you that Cuboid Keeper is worth checking out. What we have here is a speedy dual-stick shooter where you control a small box that can shoot in any direction. What sets this game apart is the fact that you can build onto that box by installing more health, new guns, and a secondary attack. And when I say that you build onto it, I mean that literally. You take the upgrades and fit them wherever you can, even if it leads to a misshapen ship. What's cool is that you can keep on building that ship out, making it bigger and more powerful to fight through the 40 unique stages. The game wants you to play through each of these stages twice, both at the default easy difficulty and the more challenging hard version. This is how you unlock the experience points needed to buy bigger ships, but you might not always want a bigger ship, so you can always rearrange and customize your little craft in countless ways. Cuboid Keeper is a lot easier than I was expecting. Don't get me wrong, this game has a fair share of challenging stages, but there's no question that this is one of the easier shooters I've played recently. One of the reasons for this is because of the sizable health bar. We start out with a bunch of health, and buying more is cheap and easy. What's more, building up a combo works as a shield, allowing you to get hit without actually taking any damage. You only lose health when you get hit without a score multiplier. This makes most of the standard levels easier than they should be, though the numerous boss fights will put your bullet dodging skills to the test. With a nice variety of stages and a whole bunch of weapons to attach to your ship, Cuboid Keeper is a winner. It's a bit on the easy side, but I love the impressive boss designs, the tight gameplay, and the sheer amount of upgrades you can buy and install. Defunct Games has found a fun and inventive way to stand out from the glut of dual-stick shooters, and that's why Cuboid Keeper is not to be missed. When I heard that Cosmonator was being called an RPG em-up, I was excited to see what that meant. Would it be turn-based? Have a deep and involving story? Or maybe random battles? Unfortunately, the answer to all those questions is a resounding no. Cosmonator isn't a role-playing game in the traditional sense, but rather an old-school shoot-em-up that just so happens to have a wide variety of weapons and upgrades to invest in. And while it's still an impressive action game with a lot of content, I can't help but feel a little let down by the misleading description. Initial disappointment aside, this is a fun throwback shooter where we jump from level to level killing bad guys, collecting purple dots, and fighting boss ships. It's a pretty standard formula except for one thing, the deep upgrade system. This is a game built around earning enough points to buy more powerful guns, better shields, extra weapons, and so much more. The shop also gives you a chance to buy secondary attacks, attack drones, and more. There are more than 30 upgrades, all of which get increasingly more expensive the further you go. Cosmonator hopes that you'll want to grind through every level multiple times in order to turn your ship into the ultimate alien killing machine. On top of the passive upgrades, Cosmonator will also let you buy and power up a wide variety of spells. These will augment your ship for a short amount of time, giving you extra powered bullets, slowing down time, dropping a decoy, and more. There are also offensive spells that you can wield, such as firing a massive laser, spread shot, and toxic cloud. I like that you can swap between all these spells on the fly, making your already overpowered ship nearly unstoppable. And that's part of the problem I have with Cosmonator. Unless you crank things up to the highest difficulty, the game is pretty easy. The default difficulty is an absolute snooze until about halfway through, which can make some of the levels feel like a bit of a drag. It also doesn't help that the stages themselves aren't all that interesting. The graphics are fine, but there's nothing about the look that stands out. Even the bosses are disappointing. Alas, the levels may not be much to look at, but at least there are a lot of them. There's 60 different stages spread across 4 chapters, each with multiple paths and optional boss fights. There's a lot of content here, and it's a lot of fun. I complain about the game starting out slow, but Cosmonator is full of space battles that are simultaneously fun and satisfying. Developer Bourbon Tank should get a lot of credit for giving us a lengthy shooter with a few original ideas, and I'd love to see them add even more role-playing elements in future mashups. Do you remember Ed 209? You know, the peacekeeping enforcement droid from RoboCop? Well, even if you don't remember Ed 209, the makers of the dual-stick shooter Mech Rage certainly do. They created a fun little action game where we travel from one side of the spaceship to the other in an effort to save the humans and kill the alien intruders. It may be a simple premise, but it sure is fun. This is the story of John, the inexperienced captain of the intergalactic spaceship Excalibur. He has the unenviable task of piloting a mech through every room of the ship and killing every last alien. This means fighting through screen after screen of aggressive enemies, all while trying to work your way towards the command center in the front of the ship. It's basically the mech version of Snowpiercer, only without Captain America and the social commentary. As dual-stick shooters go, this one's pretty straightforward. Each level is split up into a series of rooms filled with enemies. Once you kill all the aliens, you're free to move on to the next room, where you'll do the same thing all over again. Sometimes the rooms have different paths, allowing you to not only kill more enemies, but also uncover upgrades that will give your mech more speed and health. And just in case you're confused by what kind of game this is, there's a boss waiting for you at the end of every stage. The new guns you buy are also standard fare. We're able to use the money we collected in the level to purchase both standard and secondary weapons, allowing you to switch between lasers, shotguns, grenades, and more. But don't get too excited, because the upgrade system isn't very deep. Nothing about this game is especially deep, but it gets the job done and gives us a small amount of variety to play around with. It's not that I was expecting huge innovation, but it feels like there's something missing from Mech Rage. The action is fun and the bosses are challenging, but we've seen and done this all before. I also don't like how easy it is to get stuck in a room without enough life to compete. The game saves a checkpoint every time you enter a new room, which means that when you die, you start that stage with the exact same amount of health you had. This means you have to backtrack in order to collect health pickups so you don't get stuck in a room with very little life. Having to restart the entire stage all over again because of the checkpoint system is not fun and seems like bad design. Complaints aside, Mech Rage is a solid action game with an interesting story and fun gameplay. It doesn't do anything particularly original and can easily be beaten in a single sitting, but there's enough here for a mild recommendation. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of the Shoot 'em Up Show. If you like what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now here's the question I have for you. What classic movie would make for a great shoot 'em up? I mentioned Ed 209 in this review, but there are a lot of movies and characters to choose from. I mean, The Matrix is celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. That'd make for a great shooter. Or maybe Equilibrium. Anyway, I can't wait to see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we have a bunch of reviews coming. Look for my take on Generation Zero, Ultra Wings Flat, Streets of Rad, and so much more. Plus, we'll have an April Fool's countdown on Monday. In the meantime, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.